you, James. Finally, we have got to the gentleman whose book is kind of having its second launch tonight. Please welcome Mr. S.J. Fowler.
God, it's so hot. I also need a wee, so I'm not going to go on. I'm self-interested. I have the privilege now to often go and just perform in places that have something to do with poetry, and I started to perform because I hate book launches so much. The notion that you just read a poem, I'm so terribly impatient with my own self that I started to perform. And the thing about this book is that it's readable, but it's also, it's not readable. So you could read it, but if I read it, then you'll know what it says. So I can't read it. And yet, because it's not readable, I really want to read it, and I don't really want to do a performance. So what I'm going to do instead of that is just read a little bit of the essay. Now, I always put essays in the back of my books, which are, shall we say, to a normal poetry audience, difficult, as a kind of defense, a kind of justification. And I make no bones about that. I know though, thanks to Stendhal, the world is littered with words, and often with books that are testaments that would change your life, but you never find them. And therefore you don't find parts of yourself littered. Probably true with people too, but with books it's obvious. For every book you discover, you realise there are thousands more you don't. And who can pretend to have read a proper amount of books? I felt very inspired by Stendhal because he created a literature because of his overwhelming self-awareness that represented that perceptiveness as a kind of romantic dissection of other people. You can notice too much. You can be too ready to see. He has taught me to not waste my time on certain suspicions, and as French as the French can get, he also gave me a new Spain, a single notebook, and a crappy pen I thought would long run out of ink before this book might end, and I might save myself and others from what this has not become. Somewhere in this book you can find a skull, a monkey, a dirty tree, tears, a posterior presented, a goblin, a spider, a confession, a shark, and a sun. It has taken me many years to know small things. It is my taste to feel that the most penetrating lyric, the most emotive poetry, is less meaningful than the misheard phrase or accidental utterance. The crafted insight of the lyric is a kind of bureaucracy over flavoured, distant, Protestant, clever without being intelligent. The unfortunate, the authentic unlearned, the bloody, the often loud is closer to my sense of things. I'd rather read a bad sonnet than a good one, if it must be a sonnet at all, which it must not be. Have you been to a working class cafe in Spain without any English people? Now I'm going to read the contents. Bubblecomb poem, dying of shame, enemies in power, drowning by numbers, homonym te memento, Chernobyl HBO miniseries, formless business, no one really understands me, Nigel the Howler monkey sticker, Hivecomb poem, rites of passage, low-key war on apathy, Ghostcomb poem, you can go now. No one knows what's gone. A Z, 2 noughts, CGI fur, dive deep enough. Don't look now, but here it comes. Early onset something, a bit of strange. America includes the South. Automotive interior, applause. These things. Every ghost was a person. My date of death predicted. Seek the neat. Skeleton staff. Teacher feedback. The want of something to say. Before I leave forever out of the window, I would like to thank Paul. As he evoked, I think the reason why I suggested we should open up today was not to be nice, heaven forbid, but because there is an overriding sense of pointlessness around almost everything in life, and especially interesting poetry. I feel that daily because I try to do a lot to busy myself, so I have something to do before I die. And I know that Paul sometimes feels the same way. So to have a group of these people together, like a community, like a little list, it is significant. So it is a joy to share this space with you, and the final round of applause should be for Paul. Thank you so much.